Okay, hi Zach. Today we are going to go over lesson 12 and it starts on page 54 if you want to follow along. And I think you're going to really like this one for multiple reasons. The first reason is that it's pretty short. And I think that you know a lot of how to do this already. It's just a little bit of putting it all together. So I hope you like the lesson. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, hi again, Zach. This is lesson 12. The first thing that we're going to talk about is symbols of inclusion and combine that sort of with order of operations. So this first problem, this 4 plus 3 times 2, is a little bit of a review of lesson 11 because we found that the first thing that we do with the order of operations is we do the multiplication first. Okay, so we're going to do that part first. 3 times 2 is 6, and then this simplifies to 4 plus 6, and then of course the answer is 10. So you knew that already, but sometimes what we do in some of these problems to make it a little bit less confusing, believe it or not, to simplify it, is we add symbols of inclusion. Okay, and so symbols of inclusion are going to be something like parentheses, like that, or it's going to be brackets, like that. And sometimes it's a bar. So if we're doing like 4 times 3, the bar would go above it like that. And those all sort of would indicate that you do what's inside the parentheses first. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Okay, well, let's do the examples. I didn't write the examples here, but they're on page 54, and I'll just write some of them down, okay? So the first is 4 plus 3 times 2. Now, of course, you would already know that you do what's inside the parentheses first, so you would do that part first. 3 times 2 is 6, so it's 4 plus 6, and the answer is 10, just like before. Okay, but the other way to indicate it, there are different ways, is you could do 4 plus, and then put this part in brackets, 3 times 2, and of course you would get the same answer. The brackets can look a little different, so that here's another way that you could indicate the brackets. They could be like this, and that just means the same thing, that you do what's inside the brackets first. And the last thing that it could look like is a bar over the top of that. And of course that means that you do that part of the multiplication first. Okay, symbols of inclusion can also be used to indicate a non-standard order of operation. So what that means is in some situations, they actually want you to add before you multiply. Now, normally, if they don't indicate anything, you would multiply before you add. But if they do want you to add before you multiply, then they're going to put the addition part of what they want you to do inside the parentheses like that. Okay, so in this example, what we would do is we would do the addition first because it's inside the parentheses. So that part would simplify to 3 plus 4 is 7, and this whole thing would be 2 times 7, and you would get 14. Okay, let's do the next one. This one is exactly the same. It's just written in a different way. You do the 3 plus 4 first because it's inside the parentheses. That simplifies to 7. And then you have that in parentheses times 2, and of course you get the same answer, 14. Okay, so in this case, the symbols of inclusion are these parentheses. It could be a bracket or a bar or anything else, and it just means do that first. All right, let's do this other example. So here we're looking at parentheses here that we do first and here that we do first. So I'm going to simplify this whole thing to 4 plus, and then inside the parentheses is 3 times 2, so I'm going to put a 6 there. Okay, and then underneath we're going to do 5, put the parentheses, and it's 2 minus 3, so that's going to end up being, whoops, sorry, not negative 3. It's going to be negative 1. And then that will simplify further down below to 4 plus 6 is 10 on the bottom. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And the final answer is going to be negative. So that's the answer there. Okay, let's go on to to the section 12b, which goes over order of operations. Okay, so here's the example, which is on page 55, and it says to simplify this whole thing, basically solve this equation. And we have to remember that you do what's inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to rewrite it underneath. 4 times 3 plus 2. So I do inside the parentheses first and put a 5 there. Then I'm going to bring the rest down. Minus 5, do what's inside the parentheses first. 6 minus 3 is 3. So it's going to be a little important for you to show your work on these because I want to see if you're doing it correctly, and I want to see that important middle step here. Of course, you know that this is going to simplify to 20 minus 15, and the answer is 5. Okay, let's do example 12.2. This one comes next on page 55, and this is a little bit longer equation, so it's a little bit more complicated, but we can do it because we can do what's inside the parentheses first, then simplify from there, okay? So negative 3, I'm going to bring down those parentheses. 2 minus 3 plus 5, so it's a subtraction and an addition, so it doesn't, the order of operations says just do it in order, basically. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1, plus 5 is going to be a positive 4. Tell me if you don't understand that, and we'll go over it later. Just, you can mark in your book, like just write in your book, literally write in your textbook. I always think that's a good thing to do. So just put a note there to yourself if you don't get it. I'm going to bring the rest of it down. So minus 6. And what's inside the parentheses is 4 plus 2, so that's going to be a 6. And then bring down that minus 3 at the end. Then we're going to do these multiplication problems next because the order of operations says do these multiplication problems before you do those subtractions, right? So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Minus 6 times 6, which is going to be 36, minus 3. And then you're just going to go left to right. So it's going to be negative 12 minus 36 minus 3. If you add all of those together, you get negative 51. And that's going to be your final answer. Okay, let's go on to example 12.3. I know I'm going kind of fast here, but the reason I'm going fast is because I really think that you get it. If you are not getting it, just let me know, okay? So again, I'm going to highlight the parentheses because we're going to do what's inside the parentheses first. Simplify those. So I'm going to bring down negative 2. That first parentheses is negative 3 minus 3, which is going to be negative 6. This next one is going to be negative 2 minus 4, which is going to be another negative 6. Bring down that subtraction sign, that parentheses here above it. Negative 3 minus 2 is going to be negative 5. Plus 3 times 4 minus 2, of course, is 2. Okay, perfect. Now, underneath that, we're going to do these multiplication problems. So there's one chunk of multiplication, and here's multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to do those next. So 2 times 6 times 6. Because of all those negative signs, let's do them one at a time. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, what I mean by that is that can get pretty confusing if you keep track of the positives and negatives. So let's do this first. Okay, so what's negative 2 times negative 6 is going to be a positive 12. So I'm going to put a 12 here. 12 times negative 6 is going to be 72, and it's going to be negative. Okay, so negative 72. So this all simplified down to that. So negative 72. Now I'm going to bring down that subtraction sign minus negative 5. So I don't do anything with that for now. And then I'm going to add 6. Okay, so let's do negative 72 minus a negative 5. Well, that's the same, negative 72 minus a negative 5. So when you minus a negative 5, that's the same as adding a positive 5. So and just imagine the number line here if you need to, right? So here's the number line. Here's 0 way up here. And if this is negative 72, you're going to add 5, which means you go this way 5, and it's going to be less negative than negative 72. So we're going to go that way, right? And if you're not sure, just do like negative 72 plus 5 plus 6, that's going to be plus 11. And so if we go 11 steps that way, you're going to end up at negative 61. Again, let me know if that doesn't make sense, because find the difference between those two numbers, 72 minus 11, but you're going to be on the negative number line, okay? All right, let's do example 12.4. Simplify this crazy expression, right? So it looks crazy, but this is what's cool about this. It is so cool because it's not that crazy. You can figure it out. Just do these first, do these first, do these first, okay? And if you do all of those first and then rewrite that whole thing, what you're gonna end up with is 5 times negative 5 plus 3, which is negative 2, plus 7, and then negative 5 plus 9 is going to be positive 4. You don't have to write that positive, but you can. In fact, I'm gonna get rid of it because it's a little confusing. And then you add that 2 at the end. And then I wonder if maybe we should just, no, let's do the denominator too. Let's do the denominator. So 4 minus 2 is 2 plus 3 plus 5. So plus, I'm just going to write plus 8. Okay, and then let's simplify that again. So we're going to do this part first, the multiplication, to simplify it again. All right, so 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, plus 7 times 4, which is 28, plus 2. And then at the bottom is just going to be a 10. And then I think you can figure out that basically 28 minus 10 is 18. Add back 2, you get 20 on the top, 10 on the bottom. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So that's kind of funny because look at this. This is your final answer. And if you look back at this original problem, right, this whole thing simplifies to 2. That's kind of funny to me. Is that funny to you? That's hilarious. Okay, so that looks like it is the whole lesson. So again, a kind of a short one today, I think. Actually, look at this. There is one more problem on page 56 that I clearly did not write down. So let's do that one real quick and I'll just do it with you. Okay, so there's one more problem. And this is example 12.5 and it's on page 56. And it says to simplify this expression. It's negative 3, 4 minus 2, minus negative 5. So that's the numerator. Sorry, my handwriting is going to be not as good here because I'm just barely writing it down. And then the denominator is 4 minus 3 times a negative 3. So again, something that looks really complicated, but we can figure it out. Step 1, do what's inside the parentheses. We're going to do that, and that's it. So if I write that again, it's going to be negative 3 times 4 minus 2, which is 2, minus a negative 5, so I'm just going to simplify that to plus 5, okay? And then on the denominator, I'm going to do 4 minus, and then with the order of operations, we do this part first. So 3 times a negative 3, which is going to be negative 9. So now let's simplify the numerator. Order of operations, we do this part first. Negative 3 times 2, you're going to be at negative 6 plus 5. And then on the bottom, 4 minus a negative 9, which is the same as 4 plus 9, and you get 13. So again, let's simplify this one more time. Whoops. All right. one more time. Negative 6 plus 5 is going to be negative 1, and the denominator is going to be 13. So let's see if I got that right. Yay, it looks like I did. So I got it right, even though I did it spur of the moment, and you can do it too. So now's your time to do your practice on page 56. Okay, have fun with that. Bye. Okay, hi again, Zach. I hope you really enjoyed that lesson. That one was pretty fun. I kind of like doing all those numbers and making sure that you can do the problems and not getting confused by all the positives and negatives and multiplying and adding and all that stuff. So anyway, now it's time for you to do your lesson practice and your problem set. So the lesson practice is going to start on page 56. So it's right here where it says practice and simplify. Okay, so don't forget to do those little problems. And then you have the problem set, which is the rest of that page, and it's all of this on the next page, okay? Not quite the whole next page, but all of that. And you can tell that that's going to be some review. So that's good. I'm pretty sure that you know how to do those. So have fun doing your homework, okay? I'm looking forward to correcting it. See you later. Bye.